Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If you guys are new here to the channel, I'd like to welcome you here. And if you are a frequent viewer, I would encourage both of you guys right now to click on that watermark down there in the bottom right hand corner to subscribe along with that notification. That way you guys will know when additional content is here on the channel. Tommy Robinson, former EDL English Defense League and journalist, business owner, commentator, and social media activist, was finally released from prison after 66 days. Now, we have been covering this topic on Tommy Robinson several times. Now, in the United States, we have something called double jeopardy. And what this does is that it ensures that individuals in the United States are not tried for the same charges more than once. But apparently in the United Kingdom, you can just be charged over and over again, which may explain why they're having so much trouble with Brexit, because apparently they want to exercise democracy the same way and I guess continue to vote until they get a result that they like, which is of course not democracy at all, much less any way to practice law. Now, of course, what had happened was Tommy was standing outside a courtroom during the sentencing phases. This means that the trial was over. There was no potential chance for jury contamination or jury interference or even interfering with a trial. But I suppose it could be worded, it could be crafted in such a way to suggest that by Tommy being outside of the courtroom in the public space on a sidewalk, that he was somehow infringing upon this and, if nothing else, antagonizing and embarrassing the individuals who were there to be sentenced. Now, I can appreciate the fact that you want to even protect those who are guilty, because here in the States we have due process, right? You are innocent until proven guilty. So these individuals were going in to be proven guilty, of course. But nonetheless, so Tommy was arrested. Now, you remember that he was actually appeared before what would be the head judge there of the courts in the United Kingdom to address this particular issue, in which they found no particular charges. But apparently he was recharged yet again. And, you know, they basically just had a series of different charges against him. And apparently, I guess they bring you in each time for each different charge or whatever it is, however they want to, address each of the particular charges. And so basically that's essentially what ended up happening. And so in the final, I guess, sentencing of it all was the 66 days with time served from having gone in that first time, as we talked about last April, I believe. No, it was, yeah, last April, I think it was, or quite some time, not too long ago, I should say. I was trying to figure out when all that time frame worked, but it's really kind of irrelevant, because the first time he went in, he was really placed in an environment that was very hostile towards him. And of course, he lost all that weight and had a great deal of psychological trauma, which was basically what they wanted to do. But in this particular instance, his 66 days was served in what was called, I believe he said, a civil prison or a civil jail. And he pretty much had pretty much his cell and the area where he was all to himself. He had his own cell in the middle, and then next to him was an empty cell with a bicycle, and I guess to the right of his cell was the two guard stations, and then at the end of the hallway next to the workout area, he had his shower, and that's where he was. So he basically said that from the moment he walked in to the moment he walked out, he never came directly in contact with a single prisoner or inmate. Now, the irony here is he did or was allowed to walk out in the yard or the little courtyard area for exercise or to, go outside. And ironically enough, above on the 4th floor at the top where there was actually windows, Julian Assange was up there because he's being held in that same facility. So it was quite interesting. And of course, he had an opportunity to actually go and talk to Assange, which I thought was rather interesting nonetheless. But I will put links down in the published section below so you guys can check that out a little further. This week, Justice Brett Kavanaugh was in the news again on a New York Times article written by, I believe, two journalists who are sisters. I will not mention them, nor will I link the information in the published section, because I do not want to give the New York Times any credit whatsoever for this story. and I'm going to get to the point of why I'm not going to do that. But these two journalists were basing this story on a classmate of Brett Kavanaugh, whose name is Max Steele. He wrote an essay and alleged in this essay that Brett Kavanaugh exposed himself to a female student while at Yale during a party. Here's the crux. Here's the thing. The journalist did not include the fact that when they were interviewing this particular woman, who was supposed to be the alleged victim, she specifically said she did not recall the incident, nor an incident involving Brett Kavanaugh. Not only that, these two reporters continued to investigate the story, of course, to drive a narrative, and they weren't able to find any witnesses that could corroborate the story, much less place Kavanaugh with this person at any time in Yale at the same time. Now, these two reporters actually did get a lot of heat from The View, Whoopi Goldberg and Meghan McCain, as well as from NPR. I believe they appeared on there too, and they were asked, why is it that this information was omitted? It was deliberate. As a matter of fact, not only was that information omitted, the New York Times moved the story, or did not place it in the news section of the New York Times, but in the opinion section. Now, the media always likes to cry, free press, free press. We're being oppressed by the president because of our free press. But here's the thing. The free press, or your freedom of speech, does not allow you to slander and libel people. You can't just smear people, libel them, and just make accusations about them and simply get away with it under freedom of speech. That is not the way it works. As a matter of fact, you might recall the Covington kids. Remember? These groups of Covington kids from a Christian school allegedly surrounded this Native American veteran and started screaming things at him and saying MAGA and build the wall, and none of that actually happened. Why? Because journalists do not investigate the information, nor do they actually tell you exactly what's going on in news stories. That's part of why I have this, or part of why I do these Friday vlogs, is to bring all this sort of nebulous, vacuous confusion that can happen when media tries to talk, because they don't give you a clear, direct, A to B answer to most things, because they want it to be nebulous. They want it to be kind of murky and allow you to be uncertain and just allow you to hear key words like Brett Kavanaugh accused of. Now, these two reporters are suggesting that the reason they were compelled to write this story was because that this information was not included during Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, nor was it included in any sort of investigation by the FBI or background checks on Brett Kavanaugh. This was of no particular issue. As a matter of fact, look at what they did to Brett Kavanaugh during the confirmation hearing. They brought in Christine Blasey Ford, whose attorney 2 weeks ago said that she was being leveraged. She was being put there by groups, by special interests who were trying to protect pro-choice. So here you have, and not to mention the other 3 and or 4 other witnesses that supposedly came forward, which all fell apart. And Christine Blasey Ford's story fell apart because of there was no accountability. There was no way to corroborate that she was actually there with Brett Kavanaugh or that the incident even happened. But it doesn't matter, because Trump detractors have a narrative. Brett Kavanaugh detractors have a narrative. They are trying to protect their power and their interest, and they will take down whoever they want to take down. As a matter of fact, as of this week, on Tuesday, we saw Cory Lewandowski being brought before the Judiciary Committee yet again. And I give a lot of respect to my representative here in Georgia, or a representative of Georgia, Mr. Collins, because he opened up his time period by saying that this was just another media stunt. He called it for the flashing cameras, that this was all yet another display of the judiciary just trying to implicate an individual who was part of the Trump campaign. Lewandowski was the campaign manager for President Trump. And of course, there was the very famous exchange between President Trump and Lewandowski to then get in contact with the Attorney General at that time to maybe encourage the Attorney General to do this or the Attorney General to do that. And this note never made it to the Attorney General at all, and so they kept going over and over again with Lewandowski to suggest you were afraid, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And he just read from his statement, you know, I have been directed by the executive branch under the administration not to comment on this situation. He can legally evoke that protection, and he did. And it nearly shut down the entire judiciary process at that time, because they're not going to be able to do anything against him, and it was a complete sham. Every Republican representative that spoke said that this whole incident that they were involved in during the judiciary was a complete show for the cameras. It was despicable. The Democrats did not get what they wanted out of this. They wanted a fireworks show that was going to make the president look bad, that was going to make the administration look bad, and Lewandowski look bad. It did not happen. They keep pushing obstruction. They keep pushing obstruction. But here's the thing the media does not tell people. The Mueller report did not find any obstruction. Why are they talking about obstruction? The same reason why they keep pulling Brett Kavanaugh there. To sell books, to sell articles, to push their narratives, to generate advertisement revenue. And we're already experiencing that as YouTube creators. The Right Side Broadcasting, who is an independent journalist group, they are genuinely journalists. They have their own broadcast center, their own reporters, their own camera crews, their own satellite distribution of streaming when they cover President Trump's rally. So they aren't piping in, they aren't getting feeds, they aren't paying licensing fees and other things to tap into NBC, ABC, or the major news networks to show President Trump. They have their own gear, their own cameras, their own equipment, and YouTube is refusing to allow them to stream the Trump rallies at this time. I don't know, it's currently being resolved, it's currently being worked on. But ladies and gentlemen, my fans, my subscribers, I want you guys to realize what is going on here. We talk about Google, we talk about the tech giants, we talk about all the censorship and manipulation. The 2020 elections are coming up, and these things need to get settled. We need to learn more about the FTC, how they're handling antitrust and so forth. But I want you guys to know about this particular story involving Brett Kavanaugh because the New York Times had to retract the story. And even people on the left, even Democrats, are going after the New York Times. It's ridiculous. And we're seeing this happen with the media quite often, where they write these stories, they don't really care, they want the clicks, they want the advertisement revenue, and then later they just simply retract it. So there needs to be levels of accountability even with the press when they try to exercise freedom of the press. And as the dog is barking, I will leave a link to articles talking about this particular issue down in the published section so you guys can follow up. I will also include an amazing video by Tim Pool who covers this as well. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this rather fiery Friday vlog this week. I would encourage you guys now to consider clicking that like button down there in the right-hand corner of your screen below this video, as it does help out the channel. And I do appreciate all your guys' help of the channel by liking and sharing and commenting on the videos that are here on the channel. Of course, you can make yourself available to all the content here on the channel by going to the main channel page. And if you do use Amazon and or a Prime member, consider using the little Amazon icon there on my banner to, you know, watch your movies, TV shows, listen to your music, or even place orders, as that also helps out the channel and is greatly appreciated. Of course, and down in the published section, you can see the various gears and items that I use to produce the different videos for this channel. And nonetheless, guys, of course, we have the obligatory channel icon right there to click on to subscribe. And of course, you can select to get those notifications if you want to know when the latest video is out. And I will see you guys right there behind the camera next Friday.